Your mother is here tonight, Marwan, with us. On this cold and moonlit beach. Among the crying babies and the women worrying in tongues we don't speak. Afghans and Somalis and Iraqis and Eritreans and Syrians. All of us impatient for sunrise. All of us in dread of it. All of us in search of home.
Like millions of people around the world, when I saw that picture of Alan Kurdi lying lifeless, face down on a beach in Turkey, my heart was shattered. And ever since then, that image was seared into my mind, and I've been thinking of ways of paying tribute not only to that boy and his father, who also lost his wife and another boy on that fateful day, but also the thousands who died before Alan and the thousands who've died since Alan. And so a sea prayer for me is a brief tribute to all those people who've died, to honor their memory, to honor the memory of Alan Kurdi, but also to share with the world the stories of refugees who are driven to desperate measures, driven by persecution, war, violence, and many of whom end up perishing at sea trying to reach a life of dignity and safety. I came to Lebanon to meet with Syrian refugees and understand what are the factors that drive them not only to come to Lebanon, but to understand why they might want to leave Lebanon and try to cross the sea to come to Europe. So you wanted to go with the children and your husband?
انت واولادك حابه انك
ايه
ترافقيهم.
كنت بدي خلص نموت سوا او نعيش سوا خلص بس انه يعني انه نضل مع بعض. بعدين زوجي قال لي لا انه انا ما بتحمل يعني اني اشوفكم انه يعني ميتين قدامي وشوف مناظر انه.
Noura told me that and in order to secure a better and more dignified future for his family, for her husband Muhammad would leave and try to cross the sea and make it to Europe.
طلع من فرده قال لي انه بطلع انا إذا الله كتب لي نصيب وتيسرت ووصلت إنه يعني إن شاء الله إنه بنلتقي وإذا ما الله كتب لي نصيب مثلاً وراح إنه هذا يكون نصيبنا وهيك.
Noura insisted that they go together, and she said either we live together or we die together. By that time, she had two small children. Her children were born here in Lebanon. She was married here in Lebanon. But her husband Muhammad refused and said that he could not bear if something were to happen. He couldn't bear to watch his family perish, and so he insisted on going alone. We were able to actually speak with Muhammad on the phone. It's very nice to meet you virtually as well. I have spent the last hour or so speaking with your family and hearing the story of your incredible and brave journey across the sea to Europe. And we are all hoping that your family will be reunited and you'll be able to be back with your wife and your children. I imagine you miss your family greatly.
بيتخيل قد
I
ايه
hope you
اشتقت
see them
لعائلتك
soon.
وبيتامل كمان انه
These decisions are not made lightly. They're made because life here in Lebanon for Syrian refugees is difficult. Financial resources are very limited. Most of them are struggling badly, living on less than $4 a day. Access to healthcare is very difficult. Access to education for the children is very limited. Freedom of movement is very limited. So the decision to come to Europe is really based on a number of enormous challenges that people live here that makes family life really difficult and robs people of the dignity that they deserve.
هلا كانت الإقامة إنه قلت لك إنه كيف إنه بتحسي حالك محبوسة لاجئة، يعني بتحسي حالك عن جد انزليتي.
Ragda said that when she first came to Lebanon, she had no idea what being a refugee was like. And then I asked her, how has her understanding of what the refugee experience has changed over the years. And she used the word humiliating. She said it's quite humiliating to feel like you're a burden, like you are dependent, like you have no future, like you have to put on hold everything that you had hoped for in life. It kind of reminded me of those first early years when my family moved to the US, and they went from being, professionals with a future and an education and a home and everything that comes with that, to suddenly being on welfare. When she said humiliation, I remember that first year we were in the US, me and my mother would go to the supermarket, and when it was time to pay for food, my mom would pay with food stamps, and she was so mortified that somebody from her former life would see her, and see that this is, this fall from grace. My parents were very proud people, and they were always sort of people who helped other people, who gave money and supported people who were less fortunate. And suddenly the roles have been reversed, and suddenly they were now on the receiving end of other people's goodwill and charity. And so I think for them that was really humiliating. And I saw something of that in the experience of this family. Bisan was 7 months pregnant with her boy Nuruddin, who's now 2.5, when her husband and her 9-year-old son Umran left and went to Turkey, from which they crossed the sea over to Greece. And so Nuruddin has only seen his father on the internet, on a computer screen, and vice versa. The father has never seen his son yet. It's been 2 years and 7 months, she said, since they left, and she described the life since then as kind of a nightmare, because she can't stand to be apart from her husband and her son, and so she is now basically just waiting, hoping that that she will be approved and will be able to join her family through family reunification.
إنه طلعوا من الموت، يعني إنه طلعوا من هون على أمل، يعني إنه حياة أفضل. بس نحن بنعرف إنه في مجازفة بالطريق، هالطريق الطويل اللي بدهم هن يطلعوا فيه. فإنه بس مجرد الفكرة، فكرة البحر وفكرة الطفل وفكرة يعني إنه العالم والقارب، يعني إنه مجرد ما تهيأ لي يعني إنه ما بعرف إنه عن جد طلعوا من الموت. بس إنه المسافة اللي مشيوها يعني إنه مو بسيطة، تقريباً 4 ساعات بالبحر، إنه مو بسيطة. أي حدا إنه إذا بده يسبحهم مستحيل يقدر يعني إنه يجيبهم هال4 ساعات.
When I asked her, well, would your family make the same decision again? She said no, and she said, if I knew what I know now, I would refuse to let them go, and I would put my arms around them, and it would make them prisoners of my embrace, and I would not let them go even for 1 minute. Just as we were leaving her home, Bisan said something to me in a kind of a rhetorical way. She goes, I ask you a question that I is in my mind is when will this end? Why am I a refugee? How long will I be a refugee? When can I go home? And that's I think is a question that's on the mind of, I would imagine, every Syrian that lives here in Lebanon, because 90% of them would want to be home. It's appalling that people should board their loved ones on rubber boats and cross the sea not knowing if they're going to live the next day. People take these journeys across the sea because of fear of violence, because of fear of persecution, because they have no future. Life in Lebanon, I found, is difficult for Lebanese people, let alone for a Syrian refugee that has so few and limited opportunities. I came to Sicily to meet people who actually undertook this desperate journey across the sea often from Libya to Italy.
The smugglers was moving in the Eritrean house and they was taking people. They say, okay, you want to go now, we can. And they put them in a boat, the first boat that left. No one talk about them, 400 people, they drowned. No one know about them anything. I had two of my friends in that boat.
That drowned.
Yes. I was in small boat where we was about 200 and someone said if someone tried to breathe loudly or we didn't do this balance, the boat can be overturned.
Capsized.
So, capsized. So it was night and this was the moment in this dark place where if you close your eyes and if you open, it doesn't change anything.
There's no difference.
You cannot see some moment in which you say, does I exist or not? Because you come heaven, you will have a doubt about yourself if you exist or not at that moment. And the stories that people was telling at that moment at the night, a lot of people was talking and telling these stories to say we are still living. And you can hear stories of about 200 people was talking like this. Some of them was praying, some of them Muslims, Christians, you don't know.
You could just hear.
You could hear, and the main reason was only to say we are alive still. It was not what they were saying, but to confirm, to say no, we are alive still.
We were about 130 people in total, minimum, in the boat. And the women, usually they put the women and the children at the front. Then the boys and the men at the back. So, but actually me, I never knew what was going on actually in that process because I was very weak and I went to sleep. Until crossing the, let's say, the Sea of Tunisia before I woke up. And they told me that we already passed the Libyan Sea. We already passed the Libyan Sea, so we are in Tunisia Sea right now. And I have, in that moment, I had a little bit of hope because I knew that even if it is the Tunisian Navy take me, my life would be safe. Arriving, I was not just thinking about, let's say, my health problem or other thing. I started thinking about my future, that what will become of my future? What will become my situation actually in Italy? How will I integrate? How will I learn something? How will I live normally, be happy like other people? So from that moment, I was very sad, very stressed, just confused totally. For that moment, I realized that the only way that I could get my life back is to be intelligent, to be more wise, to open my eyes, to wake up like normal people, to believe that yes, I can have a second chance again. But by what? By what means? Or what sacrifices I have to make? By studying and integrate early. So I started studying here in the morning, and in the night I also studied. So within 6 months, I was able to speak the Italian language and understand the language very well.
In your 18 years, I'm astonished at the wealth of experience you've had, good and bad. I'm astonished at your resilience and your intelligence and your emotional strength. It's really, really extraordinary. I think you're amazing.
Thank you very much.
I came to Sicily to understand the cost that people pay, to understand the human toll behind the headlines, the human toll behind the statistics, behind the figures, but also to understand that many of these people that tried these journeys and did not make it, what happens to them? What happens to their memory? Who thinks of them? This is a monument here in Catania that's dedicated to the memory of all the people who've lost their lives at sea trying to reach Europe. The plaques have lines and verses from the poem by Wole Soyinka. And I think this monument is a reminder that we must never forget the human cost of the desperate journeys that people take to flee persecution, war, and extreme poverty. This is a makeshift cemetery, and what you have here is a plot of land where migrants and refugees who drowned in shipwrecks have been buried. Most of these graves have no names. There's only a coding, the date in which the body was recovered, the code for the port in which the body was disembarked, and then the code for the initials of the municipality. Other than that, there's virtually no relic of who that person was, where they came from, and who their families were. Occasionally, some of these graves have a photograph, and one or two have actually a name and a date of birth and death. But I think about the collective human lives under this ground. Many of these tombs have 2, 3 bodies buried together. I imagine most of these are young lives, children. When I look around, this place is littered with trash, crumbled up bottles, cans, dead wood, pieces of garbage thrown around, littered all over the place. It's incredibly moving to walk here. And it's just a very sober reminder of how dangerous it is and how desperate people get to find a measure of dignity.
This is a textbook case. Look, he has a number, so he wasn't identified initially, but then somebody must have come back.
Family came back and put the picture. 3 years old, 4 years old maybe. Oh my God. I saw a plot here, unmarked, and there's a small picture of a little boy who actually bears an uncanny resemblance to Alan Kurdi, even wears the same kind of a red polo shirt, looks to be around the same age. He looks 3, maybe 4 years old. And it really shook me to see that. And it's a reminder of all the young lives that have been lost. He's just one in so many. And he's one of the reasons why I wrote Sea Prayer, and one of the people that I want to pay tribute to through this book. All the lives that have been lost. This is just a handful of them. So many scattered across here and other places in Sicily. People who just wanted a safe life and dignified life, and have been buried unnamed in plots like this, terribly neglected and really heartbreaking. I don't know what the little boy's name is. I don't know who his parents are. No one knows. I don't know what his life story was, what he was thinking at the time that photo was taken, what he did after, and what his parents' hopes were for him, whether he had brothers or sisters. But now he's plot number 2, 3900 PM1 here in Catania, and that's all he'll ever be at this point. I met a Syrian family and an Eritrean family, and they're deeply grateful to have been resettled and to be here in Italy. These are ordinary people who just want a better life, and who just want to contribute, and who just want to rebuild their own lives and secure a better future for themselves.
يعني ده حظوظ انه جاتنا نحن في هسه بعض الناس الاسر فاميلي في مضت جاتها خرطوم وخلاص اتخارجت عملت الفحوصات واي شيء يعني ما شاء الله يعني نحن هسه جاتنا نحن في خلال سنة بس هي.
I asked Abdelim's daughter, who's 22, if she had a message for the world. And what she said was that we're grateful and we are lucky. We are now in Italy, and our future is, while uncertain, our lives are safe, and we have a chance at rebuilding our lives. But there are so many people who deserve the same opportunity we've been given. And she made an appeal to the world and said, give other people the same chance you gave us. That's a message that UNHCR has been supporting as well, that we need to do what we can to increase asylum space and to increase those legal pathways for people to be able to resume their lives and secure a future for themselves.
I have heard it said we are the uninvited. We are the unwelcome. We should take our misfortune elsewhere, but I hear your mother's voice. Over the tide she whispers in my ear. Oh, but if they saw, my darling, even half of what you have, if only they saw, they would say kinder things, surely.
What I've been struck by is that the images that were playing in my head when I wrote the sea prayer, I saw those images here. The words that were dancing in my head when I wrote sea prayer, I heard them spoken from the mouths of refugees.
والصبي انه كان خايف ومتمسك ببيه، يعني انه رغم انه كان عم يلطف له الجو ويعمل له يعني انه لا حلو البحر ويلا انه اذا صار شيء بدنا نسبح.
And so I see sea prayer played out again and again in the lives of the people that I met here in Lebanon and Sicily. These are human beings, like me, like you, like anyone else. These are people that have hopes, that have dreams, that have aspirations, and we must never forget that behind the numbers that we see, the millions of people that are displaced around the world, behind every single one of those numbers is a human story worth honoring, worth remembering. There are other ways for people to reach safety, and the existing mechanisms, existing safe and legal pathways through which we can give people a chance at a dignified life, be it through resettlement, family reunification, student visas, sponsorships, scholarships, and so on. So we must explore those options, and we have to expand those options, and we have to give people who've suffered through so much, who've been traumatized, who've been brutalized on their journeys, we have to give them a chance at a more dignified life through safe and legal ways that will not end in tragedies like Alan Kurdi's family.